It's been ages since Season 1 left us hanging on that cliffhanger, and let's be honest, the chances for a Season 2 aren't very high. So if you're still wondering what happened to Sett and Nina, or if Azure ends up saving her, you're in the right place. We're going straight into the manga to get you all the answers. Last time we saw Sett being poisoned and Nina being framed and thrown into a prison with Anne and Prince Yor. Meanwhile, Azure nearly escaped the king's death trap with Hikami's help. And not just us, even Sett knew that the person who actually gave the poison to Anne, pretending to be a man from the Black Wing, was Tote, his brother. Tote somehow sees Sett as a god of war who shouldn't be held back by human emotions or attachments. The story continues from Volume 7, Chapter 25. We see Anne and Nina with a very pissed-off Prince Yor. They realize that instead of being at Bido's facility, they are being held in a far eastern prison of Griffey-Guild, which is the worst and harshest prison in Galgada. This is where the most dangerous criminals are held, and they say the only way out is by death. What's even worse is that they are the lowest class prisoners there, forced to work every single day until sunset. And the cherry on top, the guards treat them terribly. It's an underground-style prison, so the people who have been here for a while look utterly worn out. While working, Nina saw a guard horribly beating a prisoner. She tried to stop him, but someone stopped her first. That's when we meet one of my favorite side characters, Sol, who tells her that helping others is not allowed in this place. He then goes on to say how fascinating her eye color is, until the guards scream at them both and she gets back to work. For lunch, all they get is a piece of bread. And as it's winter and so cold, Nina and Anne asked Yor to come sit next to them, hoping it would be a little warmer for him, but he denies and panics because he's afraid of women. He then talks about the man in the Black Wing and how they must be searching for him. However, Nina knows that Toad is behind all this and wants to kill them all eventually. She was thinking about how she can escape and how she has to take her friend Anne with her, when Yor suddenly exclaimed that General Holt should be here somewhere, and since he knows the prince's face, he would get them out of this place. But sadly, his plan didn't work. The guards said they had never heard of General Holt before and started beating Yor up. Seeing them beat him so mercilessly, Nina couldn't take it anymore. That's exactly when the warden comes in, looking as evil as ever. He repeats the same thing about helping others and asks the guards to throw Nina into the beast pit while the others just watch. The pit is dark and smelly. Soon Nina realizes that it's filled with human corpses. When the beast finally emerged from behind her, she tried to run away, not knowing what to do. It attacked her and she thought it was going to kill her, but she knew she couldn't die there. She has to see Sett. With that in mind, she gathered the courage to fight, protecting herself with the chain that binds her hands. She could have broken the beast's teeth, but she is too kind-hearted for that. So she just asked it to stop very nicely with a please, and surprisingly, it did. It listened to her and calmed down, just sitting there with her. She talks to it while crying and finally ends up in sobs, wishing that if she were a free bird, she could just fly out of there. Exhausted, she falls asleep and dreams of the sky, of the tower, and of her first love, Azure. She was borrowing the sight of the bird, and he was on his way to save her. He saw the bird come to him and said if he had wings like her, he could fly to save his Nina. But the thing was, he was going to the wrong destination. Nina wanted to tell him that, but she was a bird in the dream, so she couldn't and woke up instead. Once she got over her confusion, she met Sol again. He said it was amazing how she tamed the beast. He then introduced himself properly and called her the descendant of the Star People. Suddenly, Sol effortlessly removes the chains from Nina's wrist. He turns to her and asks, "Now then, why don't we get out of here?" Nina, who didn't know they could leave so easily, was in disbelief. So he reveals how he managed to get back to her and tells her that he made a bet with Warden, that if she were alive, he got to do what he wanted with her, but only for a day. So he takes her, not to freedom, but to his private cell. On the way, she thinks, how can this man be a prisoner? In his cell, she is immediately given a beautiful warm outfit to replace her filthy rags. She thanks him, feeling much better, while Sol, watching his product on her, beams greatly. She quickly looks away, thinking of him as crazy. Nina then takes in her surroundings. This was clearly a jail cell, but it was completely unlike the rest of Griffey-Guild. It has normal things all around, a proper bed, a wooden desk with drawers, and there's even a place to wash. But the best part was that it was warm. Sol, enjoying the praise, reveals reveals his intelligence. I use geothermal heat to warm water and pump it through pipes in the walls. And Nina, who's been freezing, thinks that he must be a pretty special first-class prisoner since he even has drinks. So she asks him, shouldn't you put this warm stuff around the whole prison? His face darkens. He asks how that would benefit him. She tries to reason with him, but he just doesn't care. To him, the word everyone is too vague. Basically, he is a genius who can provide Nina safety, but whose moral compass is far more selfish than hers. Though as we move ahead in the story, he gets a little nicer. Seeing his selfishness, Nina straight up asks him if he is being kind to her only because the warden told him she was Princess Alicia of Fortuna. To that, he chuckles and clarifies that he's not an underling of the warden, just a little bit of a genius, otherwise a normal prisoner. He gets this special treatment because of his brain. And he didn't hear that she was the Princess of Fortuna. He deduced it from the information he gained. However, he was more interested in the star people. He then explains the folklore surrounding this mysterious group. He describes them as hidden people in distant lands, believed to be real, just like in Fortuna's folktales. He lists their legendary abilities: communicating with nature, second sight, controlling the heavens, reading the stars. He even mentions hearing the name of the ancient kingdom, Lindorm. Nina protests, saying there are other people with blue eyes, but he looks her right in the eyes and delivers the chilling final detail. But none whose eyes still look blue in the dark. Not to mention the fact that she tamed a literal beast. Nina, still trying to brush off her power, says, that was just a coincidence. I've always been good with animals. Sol's smile widens as he says, there are no coincidences in this world, only inevitability. What must happen does. What must be is. A single choice leads to the present. Nina is still struggling to accept whatever this destiny is. She sits there repeating the doubt in her mind that she really doesn't have that kind of power since she's not even the real Alicia. Sol, however, is fixated on the larger concept of fate. He sees Nina as a ray of starlight in his boredom, a star princess who tamed the prison beast. He excitedly asks her if she was looking forward to tomorrow, because then everyone will see her and will believe that she survived the beast pit. And that's exactly what happened. As she walks out of the hole, wearing her new clean clothes from Sol, the other inmates stare in silence, murmuring among themselves. The girl who was thrown into the beast pit is unharmed. The collective question in the prison is clear. Is she really a normal girl? As she pushes a cart and finds other prisoners staring at her, she wonders if the story about her will catch on. But she was mostly worried for her friend / used-to-be lady-in-waiting. Then, to test Sol's theory of her really being one of the star people and having those powers, she focuses her gaze on two small birds sitting on a railing and whispers, "Come to me." The birds stay put. Yeah, I thought not. I'm not really one of them, so of course it's not true, she thinks, but to her it was kind of a letdown. However, just as she turns away, she bumps into a haggard-looking prisoner who quickly apologizes. Nina notices his worn, desperate look as he says, "I'm sure, you're totally innocent too." Before Nina could understand what he meant, Sol pops up beside her and explains that the second-class prisoners are all thrown in without committing crimes, and the separate first-class cells are for the severe criminals, the ones who are hard to handle. Nina is stunned to realize that a bunch of innocent people are being forced to live like this. Sol confirms it, mentioning how many prisoners won't survive the winter but will be replaced in the spring, as the warden loves watching the weak exhaust themselves completely. To the warden, they are like entertainment, while to Nina, it is unbelievable. He hits her with a cold truth that she doesn't have room to worry about others, challenging her to make a decision about her own safety. He offers her an escape plan, but it comes with a price, that she leaves with him alone. Nina finally had enough of him. She felt both frustrated and disappointed in him, so she walks away, rejecting his offer and saying her goodbyes. When Nina returns to the cell, she finds Anne curled up, crying over Prince Yor, who is injured and collapsed on the wooden bench. Anne, sobbing, reveals the trauma of the day that Yor only tried to save her from the guards, and they ended up beating him again. Seeing them makes Nina reconsider her choice. She could take Sol's deal and save herself, and then try to find help for her friends. But she has seen enough injustice, so she refuses to abandon her friends or the innocent prisoners. She looks at the scene and realizes she has to find a path that doesn't involve Sol's selfish alone deal. "I won't abandon anyone. I'll find it myself," she says, and and walks back outside to the pit. Shouting at the top of her lungs, she makes a public, powerful declaration to the guards and the prisoners alike, telling them that she is the priestess, Princess Alicia of Fortna, continuing loud and clear that she was imprisoned here due to someone's sinister plotting, and that she originally came to this country to become their queen. She also mentions Prince Yor and the fact that it's not too late to turn back, but the guards immediately scream at her to stop talking, saying that she's talking nonsense and a load of garbage. But Nina holds her ground, and then looks at the warden who had appeared after hearing the commotion. He knows exactly what Nina is doing, inviting rebellion. She uses this moment to expose the warden's lies to the prisoners about the fact that this general who knows Prince Yor's face isn't here. The warden cuts her off, giving an order to the guards to bring her down. As the guards come for her, she brushes their hands away, calling herself a priestess of God, as she has had enough. But the warden didn't back down, asking the guards to just kill her. Sol, who just happened to pass by, has something to say as well. He knew the warden always finds deaths only entertaining if they're unfair, so he asks him to give her a chance in finding General Holt. The warden laughs and throws down a challenge, asking Nina to show her priestess power to them, giving her 3 days to move freely in the prison. He says, "If you can find General Holt and free him, I will accept your claim and free you and your companions. But if she cannot find him, Anne will be given to the serious offenders." Nina is again faced with a crisis, and her first thought was that she would go instead of her friend. But Anne convinced her, saying that she believes in her, and that's how the confidence that had left her slowly began to come back. And she stood tall, betting her own life as well, though in return, asking for the release of the fellow innocent second-class prisoners as well. The inmates are happy, but Nina is faced with the ultimate problem. She has 3 days to find a missing high-value prisoner named General Holt in a mountain fortress, or everything is going to be a mess. Back at the capital, the second prince, Sett, has finally awakened. He is seen standing in a dark room, not very healthy, clearly furious and very upset. His first and only thought was that he will end it all with his own 2 hands. Nina wa doko ni iru? Subete o owaraseru. Kono te de. That's how the chapter ends. I like how they've already shown this scene in the anime, so if they were to give us season 2, they would continue the prison arc completely. And even the next chapters don't feature Sett and Nina's scenes, so if you're just here for them, you should check out this video instead. But if you like the story, let's go back to that. Anne and Nina meet Yor in their cell. Even though he is still bruised and distraught, he reacts to Nina's reckless bet by yelling out in frustration and asking her if she has gone completely brain dead. Nina, on the other hand, is glad that he's at least healthier now. While Prince Yor might be panicking, thinking it's definitely a trap, our star girl is motivated to find a solution. He is still unconvinced though, since she doesn't even know what the general looks like. Outside, Sol approaches Nina, noting that the entire prison is abuzz with tales of her star princess speech. She doesn't pay him much mind, saying that she's busy and doesn't have time for him, but he still tags along. After being with her for a while, he asks if she is even looking for General Holt at all. Nina stops and confesses that she is not looking for the general. Her real goal is to kidnap the warden. She explains that taking the warden hostage is a much surer plan than searching for someone who might not even be in prison. Besides, she doesn't believe Warden would keep his word anyway. Sol laughs as he realizes that she is far from the innocent, harmless princess he had initially thought. He finds her new attitude very interesting. He does ask if she should be so open with him about Warden, but Nina is confident. She knows he won't tell the warden, as he is simply there to observe, not act as his underling. She reads him like an open book and says, "You tell people to choose but won't make a decision yourself," which is pretty true. But he seems to brush it off, acting as if he's being criticized. Then she asks him about his own situation, wondering what kind of crime landed such a man in this place. His smile drops and he straight up says that he killed a king. Nina's eyes go wide, but Sol quickly eases her tension with a laugh, saying he was just pulling her leg. He admits that he simply resisted arrest and got locked up, then moves ahead and proudly shows off another one of his inventions, most probably to distract her. As they walk around, some of the other second-class prisoners call call out to Nina, asking if there is anything they can do to help. She talks to them while Sol gets lost in his memories, remembering his love for tinkering, creating, and learning all sorts of things. Then his genius starts helping people, making their lives easier, and even earning the king's esteem at such a young age. He thinks back to a maid who had thanked him for making her washing easier, and how happy and motivated he felt to create more useful things. He ends up creating a gun which he initially thought was for hunting. However, the king intended to use this weapon to murder people, and its first victim was the maid that thanked him. He didn't know if it was sadness or despair, but he wanted to seal the gun away. That didn't happen though. What actually happened was that the gun exploded in the king's hand and he died. Noah, the king's sister and the current king of Galgeta, mourns the loss, and Sol confesses to killing him, simply stating, "It was me. I did it." After that, he requests to be sent to prison to take responsibility for creating the weapon. He thinks of himself as a criminal and is willing to spend his remaining years in that place. He says he'd avert his eyes from everything, spend his days in idleness, and make no choices or decisions. His past is a burden he feels compelled to seal away. While he is lost in his mind, Nina looks concernedly at him, asking what the matter is, making him snap back to the present. He looks at her and remembers the stories of the star people, how they fled from disasters. He says they always knew where they should go, and Nina replies with, "Guess they'll never get lost," forgetting the fact that she's also Alicia, a star person. Sol then brings them back to the immediate crisis. He reminds Nina that her plan is to take the warden hostage, but points out that he is a difficult target. He then offers her a way to make it work, but only if she has the resolve to understand and shoulder the burden of the sin that it would require. Nina, confused by his talk of sin, listens closely. Then he makes her an offer, saying that he will tell her where to find General Holt, but the final choice will be hers. In the next scene, the warden receives news that Sol is taking Nina somewhere. Wondering what his intentions are, the warden immediately orders the guards to assemble. That somewhere is underground, a long hidden passageway that runs past the beast pit and opens into an icy cold space that has a deep underground lake. Sol reveals that General Holt is at the bottom of it, implying that he might be dead. For a second, Nina is speechless. Then Sol asks her to fetch this general for him. She gets even more shocked and asks if he means for her to fetch his bones. But what actually lies in the lake is a symbol of the general's power. He says, "If you have the resolve, it could be a blade to conquer nations." Nina doesn't understand a single word he says. She thinks maybe it is a riddle, but she does understand that he wants someone to get whatever is down there because he is scared of making that decision by himself. Though if he decides to let her choose, he'd already made a decision. Either way, Nina decides to go into the water, not for General Holt, but for Sol. She quickly disrobes, asking him to look away while he warns her that the water is going to be cold. She doesn't pay him much mind and gives a shriek of surprise upon entering the water because it is indeed very cold. Despite the bitter cold, she jumps into the unbelievably clear lake. She knows she couldn't stay there for long and that she wouldn't be able to make multiple dives, so she is determined to succeed on the first try. She dives deep into the lake to look for the bones but sees none. She wonders if they have dissolved. Suddenly, she sees a spear stuck to the floor. She reaches out and grabs it, attempting to pull it free, but it's stuck. The cold begins to take its toll. Her body starts to go numb. She knows she's running out of breath and must hurry. With a focused effort, she fights against the cold and pulls it out, then shoots back up to the surface, gasping for air. Now emerging from the freezing water, she holds the spear up to Sol and simply says, "Here, will this do?" Sol describes it as an attraction, much like love at first sight. He looks at the artifact in her hands, something that makes him excited, something that makes his heart dance. He realizes that this is not about the Star People's power, but about Nina's own purity and resolve, the purity he feels he has lost. But just as she hands over the spear, the passage suddenly floods with guards, who orders them to freeze and drop the weapon. Leading the charge is the warden, followed by Prince Yor and Anne. Nina cries out her friends' names, but Sol stops her. Prince Yor had realized something as soon as he saw them. Sol steps forward, places his glasses on his head, and Prince Yor exclaims his true identity. He is in fact the General Sol Gina Holt, the person they had been searching for. And I have to admit, with glasses on, he was fine. But now that his glasses are off, he looks even better. Though I'm not going to ship him with Nina. You can find out why later. Also, I kind of want to hopefully continue this every 2 weeks, so tell me if I should. For now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
You'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.